Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Ikumi. It's now less than a month to resumption of full parliamentary activities in the National Assembly. Federal lawmakers are still enjoying their holiday, their annual long recess. But some scanty activities have continued, mainly with members of the House of Representatives. Anyways, let's get into the business of the day. On the 7th of November 2024, a bill to establish the National Commission for Technology Transfer, Acquisition and Promotion scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. That bill was sponsored by Honorable Clement Jimbo. The bill aims to monitor foreign technology inflow and promote indigenous innovation, but it's been criticized by some and considered a contentious bill. So I'm now being joined by the sponsor of that bill, Honorable Clement Jimbo. He joins all the way from Uyo to throw more light on it. Honorable, welcome to the Gavel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing me pull you from your holiday. A lot of lawmakers are resting, but here you are granting an interview.
It's national building, so at any point in time we are called up, we have to respond to national call.
That's a good way to look at it. Honorable, this bill, let's talk about this bill now. This bill to establish a National Commission for Transfer of Technology, Acquisition and Promotion, which has now scaled second reading. And if I'm correct, it's gone through a public hearing. Could you talk to us about this bill and what it seeks to achieve?
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. Yes, indeed, the bill for the establishment of the Commission of National Technology Transfer, Acquisition and for other related matters is a House bill that is sponsored by my humble self for the holistic development of our solid mineral sector, if you want to say so. If you look at Nigeria in terms of our size and our population, you will understand that there are so much that we can leverage on that to bring in so many things that we seem not to have. And one of such is technology. Let's take our minds back to the olden days where there was no paper money, where there was no fiat money. What was really used in exchange of goods and services was called trade by barter. If you have a beans and I have a yam and I need your beans and you need my yam, we are simply going to exchange. So at the end of the day, I will end up having yam and beans, and you equally end up having yam and beans. Then I look at the Bureau of Statistics, the data reeled out by that agency of government. And if you look at the census of 2016, which if you add up to the current statistics that many have already projected into today, the population of Nigeria is about 230 million human beings. And going back to the Bureau of Statistics, many data they have reeled out. We have over 12 million cars plying our roads today. We are currently using over 200 million handsets in this country. Then we have so many households that are powered by inverters, solar, and many devices, millions of devices that are battery operated. Then I sat down and I looked at one of the critical components or ingredients used in powering these devices is battery. And if you look at the ingredients used in the manufacture or development of battery, it's called lithium. Then I look at the length and breadth of Nigeria. We have lithium in abundance. In fact, I probed further. I discovered that by research, the lithium quality in Nigeria is rated the best globally, while others are using a 0.4 content lithium to produce the battery that they power so many of their devices, which they equally ship to Nigeria. The lithium content we have in Nigeria is over 13%. That is huge. Just like our crude oil, we have the best crude oil in the world. Why? That is why it is called light crude. It is globally sought after. So Nigeria is blessed. But what seems to lack in Nigeria is the technical know-how, the technology to add value to these abundant raw materials. I said, okay, let us come up with a law, a position, a legal framework where any nations that wants to produce a particular product and make Nigeria the destination as a consuming nation, we must have this law that will intentionally, deliberately put a buffer and say, look, what you are bringing in is a welcome development. But for us to consume what you are producing and ship to us, we must add value to that product. I take, for example, let's say handset that we are using abundantly in Nigeria. The Bureau of Statistics has said we are currently using over 200 million. If a country wants to develop a particular brand of handset and ship it to Nigeria, this law, when it is operational, will tell the country, look, for you to bring in that product, you must intentionally, deliberately give us the technology to produce a component of that device. In this case, we can leverage on battery because we are blessed with the natural resource. We produce 1 billion copy of the handset, of the battery in this case, and the country produce 1 billion copy of the handset, then shift it to Nigeria, we shift the battery to them. So there is trade by barter. And by so doing, we have added value to our raw materials. We have ramped up our gross domestic product. We have created employment for a teeming population.
Okay.
And we equally consume the product.
All right.
So we are not independent in this matter. Other nations of the world that have developed are equally leveraging on this very technology or this very bilateral understanding or agreement to build their nation. Nigeria is not an exception.
All right, Honorable, I know that this bill has generated mixed reactions. I know specifically that the Minister of Solid Minerals has supported this bill. There are concerns, however, with regard to duplication of responsibilities here. I know that NOTAP does exist, which is a National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, and they had also raised concerns saying that NOTAP is responsible for regulating foreign technology transfer agreements and promoting indigenous technology. So the concerns that this bill may expand upon or alter the functions of existing regulatory bodies like NOTAP have been really canvassed. What do you say to that?
Okay, thank you very much for this very particular point. I recall during the public hearing of this bill, NOTAP was invited and they made their position very clear, which was not in support of the bill, which was very okay. But then, if you look at holistically national development, nobody, this bill, when it becomes an act, is not taking the responsibility of NOTAP at all. The NOTAP office will be subsumed by the establishment of this commission. So what we now know as NOTAP will be integrated fully into the Commission on National Technology Transfer. So nobody is going to lose his or her job. Rather, with the establishment of this commission, by the instrumentality of this bill, is going to expand on the responsibility of NOTAP, which invariably will add to critical national development and the upgrading of our infrastructure. Let's look at it in that light. Let's look at Indonesia for an example. Apple made frantic effort to penetrate the market of Indonesia because of their huge market value and consumption. The Indonesian government said, no, for you to have an inroad into our country and into our population and into our market, there must of necessity be an establishment of a manufacturing plant in Indonesia in order for us to equally benefit by the introduction of your product into our market. And guess what? Apple first offered Indonesian government, is it $10 million, they turned it down. They offered $100 million, they turned it down. And right now, they offered a whooping $1 billion before they can make an inroad into that country. And as we speak, 40% of any Apple product that is consumed in Indonesia is produced in Indonesia. That is what we are talking about.
Right.
Am I going to talk about China, an example where there are certain products that cannot be operational in China except you have a bilateral relationship with them and you make them know exactly how that will help curb unemployment in China, create employment in China, add to their gross domestic product. Nigeria cannot continue to be a dumping ground.
Okay,
just imagine the 200 million handsets that we currently use in this country. Let's say 50% of the battery are produced in this country. Can you imagine the number of employment that would generate? That's what we are talking about.
Honorable, let me come in here so that let's talk about some of the provisions of the bill and what the merits that you canvass for in this bill. One of them is value addition. One of the things you said is that it would be a key driver to ensuring addition to Nigeria's solid mineral exploration. You had talked about the lithium battery production, lithium deposits and all. So could you speak about that and perhaps also talk about the aspect of job creation? Because I know that this is expected to boost the local industry. How will this bill achieve these?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy for this particular question. Obviously, if you look at the rate of unemployment we have in Nigeria among our youth, it is alarming and it calls for concern. Just like when the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces made a democracy speech on 12th of June 2025 with the joint session of the National Assembly. It challenged us to make laws that are pro-human resource development, laws that are pro-natural resource development. How can we add value to our raw material? Let's begin from there. That is what the intent of this law is all about, is to add value to our raw material. And by adding value to our raw material, it automatically translates into creation of employment to our teeming youth. I said earlier, we have 12 million cars plying our roads. If we produce batteries for these 12 million cars, do you have an idea the number of employment that will create and the value addition it will create? Look at even the laptops that we use, the tablet that we use, the cameras that we use, the everyday, the microphones that we use in their millions. If we are the one producing the batteries that are powering these devices, do you have an idea of the value addition it will create and the employment it will generate? We cannot keep waving this thing away and expect a miracle to happen. For our nation to be developed, we must intentionally put laws in place that will retain jobs for our country. Intentionally, other nations are doing it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We simply circumvent it because that is the way to go. USA is leveraging it. When Trump was inaugurated, he reviewed all the tax laws, the tariff laws between nations and their country, all for the interest of the United States of America. It is time for Nigeria to equally look at what other nations have done to develop their nations and copy it exactly and implement it for us to develop, because truth is parallel. A 1 meter rule in Nigeria is a 1 meter rule anywhere in the world. And if that is the truth, creation for the Commission of Establishment of Technology Transfer to add value to our raw material becomes key. If we channel the same energy that we have channeled in our crude oil exploration, obviously Nigeria will not be where we are. A lot of employment will be created for our people.
Okay.
And it will ramp up even the $1 trillion economy that Mr. President has proposed. It will be triple.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll conclude on this conversation. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to The Gavel. I've been speaking with Honorable Clement Jimbo. He is a sponsor of a bill to establish a National Commission for Technology Transfer, Acquisition and Promotion, which has now scaled second reading and gone through a public hearing in the House of Representatives. Honorable, let's go back to the conversation and wrap up now. Perhaps you throw more light on the aspect of boosting local industries. And I also know that you had said that this bill will reduce importation by at least 50%. So perhaps you could expatiate on that and let's wrap this up.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy with the current policies of this current administration in the fact that we now enjoy what is called trade surplus, meaning that what we are importing into Nigeria is far less what we are exporting. And we need to leverage on that, just like what the WTO DG, Dr. Nkosi Okonjo-Iweala, advised the current administration that the economy is stabilized, but we should increase and improve on that. How do we make progress and improve on that? By enlarging our current trade surplus, by further reducing what we are importing into Nigeria. And how can we achieve that? Is by putting a legal framework like this in place so that it will not just be a policy of government and the president in chief or in charge per time. If it becomes a legal instrument, it therefore means any president that comes into the saddle will automatically leverage on this same instrument to progress on the development of our nation. If this bill becomes an act and it's operational, obviously it means that going forward, every handset that is imported into Nigeria will have a corresponding development of a battery in Nigeria. If we import 1 billion copy of handset, we are equally going to manufacture 1 billion copy of battery and even more in Nigeria and pay. That will automatically reduce the importation of battery in Nigeria. Okay. The 12 million cars that we are using, every car uses battery. So all the batteries that our car uses will be manufactured here. That is what it means. All the battery that we use to power our laptops, our cameras, our different devices will be manufactured here. I'm not even talking about our solar energy, where many people are advocating for green energy.
Permit me, our time is virtually up, but one quick question, and I'm hoping you can answer in maybe 30 seconds or less. One, how optimistic are you that the president will sign this if it gets to him? And secondly, what's the level of progression of this bill in the Senate?
Okay, thank you very much. In the House, the bill, of course, has scaled through first, second reading and public hearing. As we speak, it is at the committee level, Committee on Science and Technology in the House. Hopefully, when we resume, it will be listed for third reading and consideration of clauses, then maybe passed in the House, then transmitted to the Senate for concurrent. I want to believe with what the president, the body language of the president, when this bill gets to him, he will not spend a minute to signing it into law, because it will definitely add to the renewed hope agenda of our dear president.
Thank you very much, Honorable Clement Jimbo, for your time. Honorable Clement Jimbo is the sponsor of the bill we've been talking about, which is to create a new commission to regulate and oversee the entry of foreign technology and products into Nigeria. Thank you very much, Honorable Jimbo.
It's my honor, sir.
All right, then. Thank you very much. All right. Now, the People's Democratic Party caucus in the House of Representatives says Nigerians deserve better treatment from the Tinubu administration. Honorable Fred Agbedi, who chairs the caucus, stated that Nigerians are suffering. The caucus made this clear while speaking to journalists after an emergency meeting held in Abuja, where they also seized the moment to urge the president to be fair to the people of Osun State and respect a court judgment on the local government election which held in that state.
There are massive killings going on across the country, and that shows that a government that cannot protect our people is not a government that is fit to continue in office. This government has failed Nigerians. The APC government, for the past 12 years, 10 years that have been in power, has failed Nigerians, and Nigerians have come to know that PDP is the only party that can bring succor to them. Not only killings, there's a lot of hardship in this country, and Nigerians are groaning in their pains daily. People are committing suicide because the government is not paying attention to them. We want to also use this opportunity to ask the federal government to release, obey valid court judgments leading to validity or validating the local government elections that were held in Osun State.
On Constituency Focus this week, we hear from Honorable Afam Ogene, who represents Ogbaru Federal Constituency of Anambra State.
As somebody representing Ogbaru Federal Constituency, which is actually a riverine community, Ogbaru is made up of 15 indigenous communities, and we lie on the banks of the great river Niger. My people are predominantly farmers of yam, cassava, vegetables, and other food crops. But the major challenge that they have is poor access roads. In fact, the only major road that connects all of these 15 communities and linking up to the border with Rivers State is the Onitsha Atani or Somala Ogwibele Road. And that road was done halfway during the time of former Governor Peter Obi. Ever since, it's been a little push and shove here and there. But incidentally, oil exploration has been going on in two communities of Ogwibele and Ogwanyocha, which makes Anambra an oil-producing state. So the state right now is earning revenue from the 13% derivation, but the roads are simply not there for the people to move out. In fact, the oil company had to create pipelines and collect to the side of the delta. So they actually take this oil across the river to the delta area. So I'm calling on government to also, at the subnational level, the state level, and the federal level, to synergize and ensure that this road is done. This is one major need of my constituent. The next would be the fact that as a coastal federal constituency, this seasonal flooding, affects my community so much so that bungalows, you only see the rooftops. It's as bad as that. And so I'll also be pushing for holding centers. Each year they ask people to go upland. Upland to where? There is no provision made for people to move out of the villages and come upland. But I'm sure that if we have 3 or 4 holding centers that could take especially men, women, and children during such period, because it has almost come to stay that each year we lose about 3-4 months to flooding. So you can imagine floods that cover rooftops. So nobody would actually be staying there. And it's a hard time getting to undertake that kind of movement. So if the government provides us with holding centers, large halls, take it up, and then people from the catchment areas could easily move there while the period lasts. So basically, those are 2 major issues that confront us. The oil exploration, which also devastates our environment. And so I'm calling on the government that whatever they are doing with regards to community participation in oil production, they should factor in the various communities of Ogbaru, because they are also all negatively impacted. My plans is to always be their voice, and that I've started, because if you don't say you are here, nobody would remember to say you are at that particular point. So given my own background as a journalist, I've offered to be the voice of the people, which I've been doing even in my first incarnation as a legislator in 2011. I was publishing community newspapers Already I've started a radio program for them, which has employed about 5 youths. So employment is key too for people in my area. The fishes are dried up because of the environmental degradation I told you about. So it's my remit to always look out for job opportunities for them, to assess the various grants and loans available to improve on their farming. And then we're also encouraging skills acquisition. In my first tenure, I did that, ran a semi-organized technical institution. I intend to go back to that in different trades, be it dressmaking, phone repairs, barbing, confectionaries, well, whatnot. We had about 11 trades that we engaged in, and this time around, we would do similar things.
Well, that's all the time we have on the Gavel. Thanks for watching. Remember to send feedback to the Gavel@channelstv.com. I'm Terry Kumi. Goodbye.